This Week in Richmond is made possible in part by Dignity Memorial, caring for our communities with a network of funeral homes and cemeteries in Virginia and throughout North America. More information about Dignity Memorial's providers is online at dignitymemorial.com.
Alpha Natural Resources. Consistent with its Running Right process, Alpha is an energy company committed to being a leader in mine safety and an environmental steward. We fuel progress around the world. More information at alphanr.com.
Haley Buick GMC, the place for a new Verano or terrain Denali, on Midlothian Turnpike in Richmond and online at haleybuickgmc.com. Taking it to the streets and helping our community. Intelligent Illuminations. We make streetlights smart and give you control, providing secure point-to-point wireless solutions for roadway and area lighting, helping you manage, monitor, and control your streetlights. More information at ilooms.com. The Virginia Chamber of Commerce, the voice of the Virginia business community, working in legislative, regulatory, and political arenas to promote the free enterprise system. Information at vachamber.com.
It's amazing what my students with special needs can accomplish. Their pride is priceless. That's why I teach.
Brought to you by the Virginia Education Association, because a good education is good for everybody.
Additional support is provided by these sponsors. And by the members of Virginia's public television stations. Thank you.
Welcome to This Week in Richmond, and a very special welcome back to Speaker William J. Howell, the 28th House District, representing a portion of Spotsylvania and Fredericksburg. Welcome, Mr. Speaker.
Stafford.
Stafford.
Yeah, don't have Spotsylvania. It's parts of Stafford and parts of the city. Mark Cole's got parts of Spotsylvania, parts of Stafford, parts of the city. And Bobby Orrock has parts of Spotsylvania, Caroline, that area.
So that's two colleagues that are right almost around you.
Yes.
That have that area.
Yeah.
First elected back in 1987, began serving in 1988, Speaker of the House since 2003.
Right.
In fact, I recall you started somewhere, I think, in the middle of 2002, kind of filling in.
Well, yeah.
And appreciate your being on. We'll let our viewers know that we're having this conversation on the Monday before the session convenes on Wednesday. They'll be seeing the program a few days after the session has convened, but appreciate the opportunity to have you talk with our viewers about what you're seeing as some of the major issues that you'll be wrestling with in this short 46-day session.
Yeah.
That's really scheduled to adjourn February 28th.
I hope so.
Yes,
Yeah.
so it's a short time. So as you think about those issues, what are some of the ones that you'd like to start with?
Well, you know, David, and you'll remember this, not that you were here, but back in the early 70s when we went to annual sessions we used to have them every other year.
Yes.
And the reason behind the annual session was we had a biennial budget, a 2-year budget, and we would come back for the short session to sort of fine-tune the budget. And of course, it's grown to be a full-blown session now. We do a lot more than the budget, but the budget is still sort of the primary thing we look at. Interestingly, this year, we were able to address a lot of the budget concerns for 2015 in the fall of 2014 during a special session. We are looking at an anticipated shortfall of about $2.4 billion over the next 2 fiscal years in our budget. The economy has not rebounded in Virginia like it has in other parts of the country. It's still a gradual recovery all over the country, but the rest of the country is beginning to see some real economic development. Virginia and Maryland, because of their heavy reliance on government services as well as the military, particularly in Virginia, is finding that because of sequestration, a lot of the military and government services are not what they used to be. And so we are seeing that where in previous recessions, Virginia would rebound with about a 5-6% growth rate, now it's less than 2%. And the results have been that we're looking at a pretty significant shortfall. We came in and we, as I said, we've addressed a lot of it already. We took about a little more than $700 million from the rainy day fund and applied that to part of the shortfall. Made some cuts, worked with the governor on making some additional cuts, and the governor, with his proposed amendments to the budget, has completed that process. So there's not going to be quite as much to do on the budget side. And that's why I have hopes that we'll be able to get out on time,
Yes.
maybe even a day early or so. So the budget is a very important thing, but we still have to do that. I think you're going to see some more discussion on ethics reform. As you'll recall, last year in 2014 session, we did some pretty significant, I thought, ethics reform, dealing with transparency, caps, limits on how much people could give. The governor created a commission to look at ethics, and they've come up with their recommendations, and I think the public really still wants some more to be done there. And I had an op-ed piece that I wrote with Tommy Norman in the paper last fall committing to the fact that you will continue to look at ethics. I've had several of my caucus members working on some proposals, and I think that we're going to come forth with them, and I believe that we'll work together with the Senate and the governor and come up with some meaningful additional reforms to ethics. And I think that's going to be a significant part of what we do. I also, and you may be aware of this, over the past, 10 years, we've created in our caucus a policy committee. Kirk Cox, who's the majority leader, is head of our policy committee. And this policy committee meets beginning in the summer months of the year before the session, working on different agenda items that we think are necessary or people are interested in. And so we've had policy groups meeting on K-12 education reform, higher education reform, workforce training, job training, what can we do in different areas like regulation. And we've come forth with, I think, a pretty impressive package of some reforms that we want to make. Recently, Tag Greason, our delegate from Loudoun County, and Kirk Cox from Chesterfield, Colonial Heights, had a press conference talking about some of the significant reforms they want to make with K-12 education, following up on what we did in 2014. Kirk's got a bill, and one of the real concerns, and I know you're familiar with this, is the increasing cost of higher education. It's just, it's really out of control. And I think that there's a lot of steps that can be taken to deal with that. We have to deal with it. People are not going to be able to. The middle class right now is so squeezed on the cost of higher education. And it just seems to be going up and up and up. It's not an insignificant item, but it's not a big item either. But Kirk Cox has a bill in that's going to limit the amount of money that the student is charged for athletics in public schools. In most of your public schools, there's not an insignificant amount of money that you have to pay, together with your room and your board and your tuition, for the athletics. And I think many of us question whether this is an appropriate item for a higher education. Also, Nick Rush has a bill in that's going to create sort of a no-frills school. College, and it's going to have a set price, and not going to have a lot of the frills that colleges have today. You know, they all seem to be competing against each other to see who can have the best meal plan or the best athletic events and all, and that's well and good, but somebody's got to pay for it. And so we think there ought to be an alternative. If you wanted a less expensive way of getting your four-year education, here's a way you can do it. And as you and I were talking about before the program, I think we're going to continue to see more online education for our higher education sources. So we're looking at higher education. We're looking at job creation, things we can do to working with the governor to get away from this reliance on government funding, government-created jobs, and look more at manufacturing, agriculture, different innovations like that.
You know, it's been, just to pick up on the last issue that you're mentioning, it was interesting to see the Joint Legislative and Audit and Review, JLARC, looking at workforce and with a bipartisan approach there. And it sounds like that that this may be an issue that will be worked on that will not in any way be partisan, but trying to make sure that the training is in line with the jobs that are available.
Yeah, it's so important. And David, you know, you're exactly right. It's something, I've been in the House now, this is my 28th year, and I started when I was 12. And ever since I've been in, we've talked about workforce training and different people, you know, we've got these different agencies that all seem to overlap each other. We really need to get that coordinated and consolidated and work on that, because it's so critical that we train young men and women coming out of school, whether it be high school or community college or four-year education, with skills that then translate into jobs. So many kids graduate from college and can't find jobs. And part of that's the economy, but part of that is they're not necessarily trained for what the economy is looking for. Yeah. One of the things we're doing, which I think is exciting, you know, in Prince George County, down below Petersburg, the Rolls-Royce plant down there, and we've been working with them and with this outfit, this consortium of different businesses called CCAM, which is involved in this advanced manufacturing. And Rolls-Royce has a very successful apprentice school in England, and we're going to try and replicate that in Virginia. It's not inexpensive. It's going to cost some money. But what you do is you take these kids out of high school and show them, teach them how to use the computer skills, get the computer skills and things they need so that they can be in the 21st century manufacturing ability. Virginia is so ideally located to be a manufacturing hub. If you stop and think about it, over the next 10 or 15 years, there are probably very few cars that are going to be built in this country outside of southeastern United States. There's going to be very few airplanes built outside of the southeastern United States. And it doesn't mean that Virginia is going to get a Honda factory or a Boeing plant, but it does mean there's a tremendous opportunity for parts and services, just like the Rolls-Royce plant.
Yes, right.
Does parts of a jet engine that then is sent to South Carolina where they put the Boeing planes together. And tremendous opportunities, but we need to be sure that our students are trained to take advantage of those opportunities.
You know, as you mentioned campus issues, let me raise one that for some is kind of a thorny issue. I think for everyone it's a troubling issue, and that is the campus sexual assaults.
Yes.
You know, without getting into the article that didn't really do a fair job
right.
With the University of Virginia, there seem to be bills that are being filed. Is that something that you're looking at policy-wise, or is that just individual members?
Yeah, well, individual members, we've talked about it, but it's the Rolling Stones article at the about the University of Virginia certainly got a lot of people interested in doing something, and you don't want to overreact necessarily, but I do think there's some things that can be done to tighten up what happens on the college, university campuses. And I'm sure you're going to see something come forth from this session addressing that.
Yeah, I think that's an issue that will not go away quietly.
Well, and it shouldn't. It shouldn't. It's a serious issue, no question about it.
And you know, we were talking some before the show about grandchildren, about being in college and university, and for those who have children in universities, I think that the time has long, I guess, since passed that it was in loco parentis.
Yeah.
It was the Latin phrase that was used way back when I was in college, that where the university was being like. But now with all the prohibitions on sharing information that higher education has with parents, it's different. But still, we want our kids to be safe.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. A lot of that, most of those prohibitions are federally driven.
Yes.
And it would drive me crazy if I were a parent and had a kid in college and I couldn't get his grades or something like that. But that's another issue.
Yeah. Well, there certainly have been sad stories that you and I both have seen of someone who were after a suicide that the parents were not told anything about the trouble that their son or their daughter was having because of some of those federal prohibitions that kept that from happening.
Yeah.
It's most unfortunate. Go back for just a moment, our viewers, on the budget, making sure that they all understand, with all the heavy lifting that you did in 2014, it doesn't really leave a huge gap then to be worked out between the legislature and the governor.
I would hope so. I think we're in a pretty good position, and we worked with the governor in the fall of 2014. Yes. And you know, no matter who the governor is, there's a little bit of tension between the executive branch and the legislative branch, and that's natural and that's healthy. I think that he's submitted his proposals, and we'll accept some of them and probably modify others, and then he gets another pass at it when he gets the budget that the legislature comes up with. He can amend or veto different items. So it's a good process. It's a lengthy process, but I think we've cut the length a lot by already working together in the fall of last year to come up with some budgets.
And I think those of us who observed that know that if you had not had that opportunity, it would have been most difficult to get everything done in the 46 days if you'd been facing that entire deficit.
Right, yeah,
beginning.
I think it would have been. Yeah.
You know, another issue that just won't go away either is health care reform. Mm-hmm. Doesn't necessarily mean Medicaid expansion or by any name it's called, but do you see anything that in this session that's now started after we've had this conversation that would be anything significant in any health care reform?
Well, I hope so, yeah, sure. We the whole issue of Medicaid expansion, which came up in the 2014 session and dominated that session, basically is about how do we treat those people in Virginia that for whatever reason can't get good medical attention. The governor and the people that like the expansion of Medicaid have proposed that we just expand Medicaid. Medicaid, as you know, David, is the health insurance that is a federal-state partnership. It's a unique partnership because the state pays 50% of the cost but has absolutely no say-so on how it's administered, but that's another issue. But Medicaid is for those who are truly needy, the elderly, the infirmed, the disabled, the single mom, and it sounds harsh to say it's a broken system, but it's a system that isn't working. Right now in Virginia, there's about 1 million people out of our 8.5 million people that are covered by Medicaid. The cost of Virginia in this past year was probably about $4.2 billion. That's our 50% share. The federal government paid 4.2, we paid 4.2. That cost is growing at about 8% a year, which is, and with the economy growing at a week, 1.5%, maybe 2% a year, you can see where that's unsustainable. Right now, in the budget that we're looking at right now, Medicaid costs, the 50% that Virginia pays, consumes the largest part of our general fund budget. It's larger than what we spend on K-12 or higher education or public safety or any of those. And so it's a system that really we need to address the present system before we talk about adding an additional sum through the expansion of Medicaid. The estimate is it could be up to 400,000 more people that would be eligible for expansion of Medicaid. And unlike existing Medicaid, where it's for the truly needy, the expansion of Medicaid would cover anybody, no matter what the age, no matter what the marital status, who is earning under 138% of the poverty level, which is for a single person, I think in Virginia, about $16,000 a year. Family of four, about $22,000, $24,000 a year. And I just don't think that we can continue this. It's a $2 billion a year entitlement that somebody has to pay for. The federal government right now claims they'll pay for 100% of it, and after 2 years from now they'll pay for, it ratchets down so that they ultimately will pay for 90% of the cost forever. Unfortunately, the federal government, as you know, is probably bankrupt now, it should be. There's about $18 trillion in debt. They can't continue to pay 90% of this cost forever. And so it's going to come back to the states. And the states that now are finding that the existing Medicaid is crowding out money for K-12 education or whatever are going to find an even worse situation. So what we need to do and what we've been working on is come up with some sort of plan where we can reform the existing Medicaid, and at the same time we can take maybe that money that we've saved and use that to create more free clinics, more community health centers. A real problem is just just finding someone to deliver these health services. If we expanded Medicaid by 400,000 people, who's going to take care of those people? Right now, less than 50% of the doctors in Virginia see Medicaid patients. And it would be even worse if you added a lot more people. So we're very interested in coming up with some sort of program. Perhaps we need more physician assistants or registered or licensed nurse, practical nurses, people like that who can deliver health care and find some way to incentivize them or entice them to locate in some of these parts that are underserved, like Southwest Virginia, Southside Virginia. And I think that can be done. I think the free clinics are a wonderful, wonderful program. But they're pressed. They're really staggered. In Arlington County, they have a wonderful free clinic up there, and every morning they have to do a lottery to see who can see a doctor and who can't. Yeah. That's just not a good situation in an affluent county like Arlington, with hospitals that are doing very well financially, and the free clinics don't have enough money to see all the people come through. We need to address that. So I think in this session, it's a long answer to your short question.
Yes.
I think in this session we'll see steps taken towards expanding the health care through incentives and through additional funding for free clinics, community health centers. But I don't think you're going to see an expansion of Medicaid. The governor has put it in his budget amendment, but I don't think it's going to pass. We rejected it on 3 separate votes in the House in 2014, and I don't think anybody's changed their mind.
Now, what about daycare regulations? Because there's been concerns that have been raised about
there've been some tragedies,
unlicensed
yeah.
daycares. Do you see something happening on that issue?
Yes, yeah. You know, one of the things I do as speaker is assign bills to the different committees, and I've been working on that for the last week or so, and I've already seen a fair amount of bills addressing that have come in. And like a lot of other subjects that are like the ethics, for example, we're going to send them all to one committee, and they'll form up sort of an ad hoc subcommittee to look at all the issues dealing with that problem.
You know, one of the bills that I've seen that looks very exciting is for Our Great Virginia.
Yeah.
It's an effort to move us beyond where the decision that you all made way back in 1997 to
87.
To make the state song that was in existence then a state song, I think emeritus, somehow keeping it around, but no one sings it anymore.
Right.
But
actually, David, that was in 1987. That was before I came
87.
here. My predecessor in the House, Tom Moncure, was the one that had that bill to
it's even longer.
Take the song "Carry Me Back to Old Virginia," which had been the state song, and had some problems with some racial language, and it was from a different time. And so we decommissioned it as a state song and have not had a state song since then. And in the Rules Committee, every year we'll have 1 or 2 or 3 people come in with their suggestion for a new state song. And we've heard hip-hop state songs and beach music state songs and on and on. Bud Robertson, who's a very renowned professor, he's retired now from Virginia Tech, Civil War professor, had probably the most popular classes up there. He's just a wonderful man. Bud has been he loves Virginia, and he's been very concerned that we don't have a state song. And on his own, he has hired, or not, actually I think the guy's doing it for free, a lyricist who has written words to the tune of Shenandoah, which is a wonderful tune that everybody in Virginia knows. It's an old folk song originally. And it's called Our Great Virginia. It's a beautiful song that we've had presented. We had the National Speakers Conference in Richmond in September. Speakers from around the country came to Virginia, and we were showing it off. And we had a reception on the opening night in the Capitol, and I had the Richmond Symphony Chorale come and sing some songs, and we got them to sing this song at the end, and it was just beautiful. So I'm hopeful that I put in a bill on the House side. I believe Senator Chuck Colgan has put it in on the Senate side, and we're going to see if we can get this to be our new state song. And I got to say this, David, because I've received a little bit of criticism, if you will. You know, here we got a $2.4 billion shortfall, and how you're messing with a new state song. Well, I can multitask, and we're looking at different. You know, it's something that isn't going to be a whole lot of heavy lifting. It's something that, but it's something that I think needs to be done. And here's a great opportunity to do it.
Well, anything you do, someone's going to criticize.
Yeah, it
so,
is.
and if you do nothing, you get criticism for doing nothing.
Yes,
So,
yes.
so I think that there are those of us that have applauded past efforts to get
Yeah.
a song, and this one, particularly with that tune of Shenandoah
Yeah.
and those words, I've listened to it, played it for the family. I could even sing it, but I won't do it at the close of your show. But very much appreciate, Speaker Howell, your being on This Week in Richmond. Our time is gone. We'll have
Yeah.
you back again, but thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm sorry I talked too long.
No, you did not. Thank you.
This Week in Richmond is made possible in part by Dignity Memorial, caring for our communities with a network of funeral homes and cemeteries in Virginia and throughout North America. More information about Dignity Memorial's providers is online at dignitymemorial.com.
Alpha Natural Resources, a leader in mine safety and an environmental steward.
Haley Buick GMC in Richmond and online at haleybuickgmc.com. Intelligent Illuminations, helping you manage, monitor, and control your streetlights. The Virginia Chamber of Commerce, the voice of the Virginia business community.
The Virginia Education Association, because a good education is good for everybody.
Additional support is provided by these sponsors. And by the members of Virginia's public television stations. Thank you.